January 2012, the federal government released the new work health and safety legislation. In January 2013, SA adopted the national safety laws. The harmonisation of work health safety laws across Australia has a number of implications for both organisations and those who work within them. These 7 modules look to unpack some of these changes and in particular address the main roles and duties of an officer. This role is different from the responsible officer. Under the old legislation, a responsible officer was a person appointed at any level in an organisation. Officers under the new Act are not appointed but are defined by their role to make or participate in decisions that affect the whole or a substantial part of the business. There is no opting out or delegation of the officer duty. The officer role has been expanded both in terms of who it applies to and the legislative duties required for compliance. The penalties and fines for non-compliance have also been altered significantly. Therefore, these modules will build an understanding on how the officer role is defined by the Work Health Safety Act and who it applies to, define the officer role, responsibility and duties required for compliance, and finally provide specific work health safety information that officers may require in their roles. Practical and easy to use checklists, examples, web links, glossary and case law have been provided to explain the officer role in each module. The Work Health Safety Act 2012 applies to all organisations regardless of size. It establishes health and safety duties for all people. Specific principles include representation, consultation and participation in health and safety. This includes the use of HSRs, safety committee members and consultation with suppliers, other PCBUs and workers. The establishment of the role of health and safety regulators, i.e. Safe Work SA, and inspectors with compliance and enforcement powers. Provisions of protection for workers against discrimination when promoting or implementing health and safety practices. The use of both regulations and approved codes of practice to implement the WHS Act. And finally, the use of local support and consultative services, i.e. Safe Work SA Advisory Council. These principles have been carried over from the previous WHS Act 1986. So what's new in the Work Health Safety 2012 Act? Business owners are now referred to as a person conducting a business or undertaking, or PCBU. This new term brings about strengthened responsibility and accountability for business owners in relation to creating and supporting a health and safety culture. This includes the implementations of work health safety policies, procedures, consultation, and enforces their primary duty of care to others. The role of an officer has been defined as an individual who participates in making decisions that affect the whole or a substantial part of the business. Their primary duty of care is to exercise due diligence to ensure the PCBU complies with their work health safety duties and obligations. These modules will explore the role and duties of an officer in more depth. Health and safety representatives' roles and activities have been reviewed and altered under the new Work Health Safety Act. The term reasonably practicable has been clarified for businesses and factors which support it have been simplified. In addition, work health safety entry permits for unions have been brought in. Penalties and legal action have been significantly altered and the process of enforceable undertaking has been introduced to enforce compliance. Finally, workers now have the right to cease work and alterations to work health safety regulations and approved codes of practice reflect the changes seen in the Work Health Safety Act.